Hello and welcome to the Embrace Balance, Discover Joy podcast. I'm Amanda Butland, your host and intuitive life coach.
All right. Well, welcome to another episode of the Embrace Balance, Discover Joy podcast. Today, my special guest is Cindy Turck. Cindy, I'm so glad that you're here with me today.
I'm super excited too. So when I met you a while back through Contra Rise, I was like really excited because you're just a genuine, bubbly, nice person. I can tell you're a very sweet person. So happy to do this with you. So yeah.
Thank you. All right. Well, I'm going to start by asking you my little icebreaker question that I ask all my guests. Would you mind sharing with us what hobby or activity brings you the most joy and why?
Okay. Well, I have to be honest, concerts. I love concerts. Going live music, there's nothing better in my opinion. So, and just anything that makes you feel good and, move and groove and just with the energy of people and that. So, yeah, I'm a huge big fan of going to
Oh,
concerts.
awesome. I love that. I love it. Yes, music for sure is something that is just amazing. And I'm curious then, since you mentioned concerts, what was the first concert you ever went to, and what was the most recent concert you went to?
Okay. So the first concert, I always get, it was a long time ago. It was REO Speedwagon, I think.
Oh,
That was
okay.
like a long time ago. And that wasn't necessarily by choice. I just went with, a group of people or whatever. It wasn't because I don't listen to much of their music and I was pretty, young at the time. But, they got some hits out there too. But my
Yeah.
most recent was Bombargo, and they're a band out of Canada. They're high energy, they're awesome. Yeah, there was a big music festival in a town not too far from here. So and it's a great festival because they bring in all kinds of artists for free. Like it's free to
Oh, wow.
everyone, and it's like the whole town is loaded with different bands and artists, and that's in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. So
Nice.
yeah, yeah, that
Awesome.
was fun. So, but
Cool. All right. Well, we're here to talk about coaching, but not just coaching, because I know you're not necessarily a coach, but you are a spiritual educator. And I would love if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about your journey of how you got to where you are today as a spiritual educator.
all right, yeah. Well, I mean, everyone has a story of how things began. Mine basically I was kind of unhappy with life, and I surrendered to God, not meaning to, just in an innocent conversation. I was having some marriage issues and financial issues, and this was back in 2009. So I just basically was like, God, I'm not a bad person. All I want is someone to love, to be loved in return, and be able to take care of my kids financially. I'm not asking for a lot, so I don't understand. I know there's more to life than this. So that's after that, I don't know, man, the floodgates opened, like, so I basically let go of everything, and I was like, whatever falls in my path falls in my path. But yeah, after that I started having visions, and a lot of animals were coming to me, and I started channeling poems. So and when I say I channeled poems, like it was crazy. Like, I mean, I channeled hundreds of poems for a while, for a few years there. And it was like when they come to you, you just have to write. You don't know where the information is coming from or anything like that. And yeah, it gets a little complicated because when I surrendered, I meant for, the love of my life to find someone to love and be loved in return. I meant for it to be my husband. And it was actually revealing someone else through these poems that was the love of my life. And I was like, this makes no sense. Like, we're not together, and had no intentions of being together. But it started like a twin flame journey, or the twin flame consciousness. So I don't know how deep to get into it because it gets a little crazy. But along with that, yeah, I was writing these poems about this guy, and sharing how we had this kind of divine love. Then I was, like I said, I had animal images coming to me, and um then I had, I started having these energy surges that I would get this interesting feeling like in my heart chakra. And then all of a sudden, like one day I was at work and I told my coworker, I'm like, I do not feel well. Like, I don't know what's going on. And all of a sudden I just collapsed. And she is like, oh my gosh, like what's going on or whatever, you know. And then it was just a few moments and then I came to and I'm like, I don't know what happened, but it's kept happening. So, and it felt like my soul was pulling out of my body at that time. And I worked at an eye office for 14 years at that time. And I had, management team was, and people around me were like, what is going on? This is very concerning because I was always a very level-headed person. And here I am all of a sudden saying, oh, and then I had, you know, um, an interactive like experience, like an actual out of body experience where I was like taken from my body and I was out in outer space and I could see the earth like in front of me. And I mean, the thing that goes along with that is that I could actually feel where I was ripped out of my body, like through my hands. It was just like, my soul was detached from my body. So, and the crazy thing is I had a poem that had kind of shared that I was going to go have a conversation with God. And then I was going to come back down to earthly ground and have a conversation that was very sound. And it just, then I like had a vision with Jesus a couple of times when I was like in a waiting room for, and, because when I had an episode, my management team was like, you have to take her to a doctor to see what's going on when she's having a spell. So like, yeah, we're sitting there in the office and here, I get into this weird zone and sitting in the waiting area. And then my manager was like, I don't know what is going on with you, but I had, this image of like Jesus with a flock of sheep and all this stuff. And I had never been religious and all that. So that's why management team was like, we need to, have you checked out, find out what is going on. Cause these are kind of some different things. And like I said, I'd always been a very level-headed person and it just kind of, went from there. And, so I started having to see different doctors, you name it, I had it done, MRIs, CAT scans, the ink blot and, all the different tests. And they could not find what was causing my issues. So I finally found a counselor who she's like, I think it sounds like you had a Kundalini awakening. And I had never heard of that or been familiar with it. And and then she kind of teamed up with a physician's assistant and he recommended that I do self-research. So, because he said it was kind of like he was a closet, Eastern belief doctor, in a Western belief system, because he's the one that kind of told me about shamanism and the importance of looking up animal symbolism because we can learn things because we're all interconnected. So, that's what I've done since 2009. I mean, I've spent tons of time researching different things, reading tons of books. Like, I'm a big fan of like Joe Dispenza or Deepak Chopra. I read a lot of this stuff, Thomas Campbell, and there's just like a whole bunch of different, authors that I've gotten either, you can watch videos or listen to audiobooks. I actually clean part-time. And so I spend a lot of time listening to as I'm doing that. So but I don't have the traditional background of going to school and like everything like that. I was kind of taught and infused that way. And the interesting thing though too, as these energy episodes were taking place, I started actually developing skills as a trance medium. So spirits were starting to connect to my energy field. They would jump in my body and sometimes I would know who they were, sometimes I wouldn't. They would download information, they would leave, and then I would write poems. And so, again, this is all like, what is going on? And some of them were very detailed for, individuals, like for messages that they needed at that time. I don't do too much with the channeling at this point. It kind of all ended in 2013. But a significant visitor that I had was the spirit of Carl Jung, the father of analytical psychology. So, I kind of did some research with him, and just, the information that was revealed to me was, pretty vital. And it, basically when I started looking him up, I tapped into his theory of individuation. So dealing with our shadow aspect of self and the ego, and you have to balance your masculine and feminine aspect of self. And just the different components. And then like when you can kind of strip all that away and balance things out, then you can tap into your true authentic self, which is, your God self or your God essence. And then you can tap into God consciousness. So yeah, you start, shedding all these different things. And yeah, it was kind of all crazy taking it in, but it was interesting because Carl Jung came to me at one time, and I was with a friend who was she was like she had a massage business, so, and she's like, did you have a visitor come yet? Because she knew I was going through some of this stuff, and I'm like, no. She's like, well, you're supposed to have someone, come that's pretty significant. And I'm like, oh, and then he came to me. And then a few years later, he came, like his energy connected with me again. And then I downloaded another poem after researching the individuation and all that. And then he tied, because when the counselor said that I was maybe having a Kundalini experience, I still didn't resonate with that when I was researching and everything. Then I went, and Carl Jung came back to me, and then he was talking about how we're associated with energy and all that, and tied in the Kundalini. So after that, yeah, then I had a vision of a stairway, like a spiral staircase, and a strand of DNA. And I was with a group of women. We were trying to find our spirit animal, but I went in a completely different direction. And like one of the ladies that was in the group, I knew her. She was like a neighbor for a while, and she was just like, I don't know what was going on with Cindy, but she disrupted my meditation. She had like, my heart was pounding. She had all this energy pouring in, from her direction. And but yeah, then so from that, I with that spiral staircase and stranded DNA, if you look at those things and then you look at Kundalini energy, it's all the same, similar in shape, and so it's all representative. And I like to, so basically what it is we're all on a stairway to heaven, and vibrationally each of those different steps is, a vibrational level that you're going to climb up so that you can, tap into that God consciousness. And that's what our goal, I think, is that we want to bring heaven to earth. And the way we do that is to shed that energy baggage that we don't need to hold on to anymore. So, and I always, it gets into different dimensions and whatnot, but, basically, like I always kind of show, like the picture of like a chakra outline. And anytime we have like a trauma-based thought or a negative thing, it's like a little dense energy zone gets put on that chakra. And so, every time you have a thought that is not 100% the best, it's going to put like these little different pockets of heavy energy. And then that bogs people down, lowers their vibration to a 3D level. And one of the skills as I was studying this stuff and learning how to do this, then because the twin flame consciousness was a very intense part of my journey, I found this gentleman on Facebook, and anytime, like there was times I would ask a question to myself, and then he would do a video answering that question. Like 3 times he did that, and I'm like, wow. Okay, this is my resource that I need. His name was Mel Brand, from Meridian Energetics in Canada. But I was like, okay, his information is what I need to link into, and he covers a lot of these different topics, and how we're balancing our masculine and feminine aspect of self so that we can tap in, and it's like a 3-way union. Yeah, it's like you connect with another version of yourself energetically, and with the God aspect connected there. So, but yeah, I decided to study with him because he was saying, we're looking for practitioners. So I, signed up, and he did a little interview, and he said within 2 minutes, he's like, you're going to be a great, he knew I was going to be a great energy practitioner at that point in time. So, but yeah, I studied with him, and then he passed away through our training, and I was like, oh no, like I lost in 2020, I lost my dad, and then he passed away. Like 2 of the big mentors in my life passed away, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do from this point. Like he's the only one that I feel like gets what I'm, going through and all that. But then his wife took a little time to heal, and then she, continued the training, and they had completely different training styles. So I think it was good because I got a, mix of each of them. But yeah, as this was all happening, I was still learning, taking in information. I'm big into understanding consciousness, like Tony Nader and different people, I read or listen to different things on that. But so as an energy practitioner through meridian energetics, I kind of shifted a little bit with what I do. I take a lot of their, the styles that they kind of incorporate, but I had kind of developed this method without realizing it on my own when people get bogged down with this energy. And because I am, capable of connecting with people's energy, I connect when, I would connect with a person's energy field, and I still do for that matter, but like I can feel with my heart chakra is open when this happens, and I can extract dense energy from the different chakra points. And it's dictated, by source. People are like, oh, I'm so bogged down with energy. Almost everybody is, because it's not just from this lifetime. I believe it's from multiple lifetimes. And the information that we get programmed from our families, from peers, from the collective, so we just get bogged down. So yeah, I connect with the energy field, I draw it off, like I vacuum it off, and I make horrible noises. Like it sounds atrocious when I'm doing this. But yeah, I like yank it off, so to speak, and then I shift it up. It filters through my heart chakra, so like it transmutes or neutralizes it, and then I dry heave out the residue. And when I do that, it can be intense, like because I've warned people, and people a lot of times are like, are you okay, like are you, and I'm like, it's my thing, it's my jam, it's just how I do this. And then it's kind of like, once you can pull off this heavy energy for people, it's like we're a computer. You clean up the viruses, you get them off. Well, what do you want to do? You want to run a download to give it the latest software upgrade to make it run peak performance for that. So then after I throw that energy aside and get rid of it, I do downloads into the various chakra points to give new energy templating. It's kind of like on the stairway to heaven. So like people can do their own work, and that too, just from helping people connect with their true authentic self. We can do it. There's many methods to do that, nature and therapy and meditation, all that stuff.
Right.
And I'm a big fan with all that, but yeah, this can kind of help boost people up, up a few steps at a time, rather than a little bit here and there. But the thing is, I have to tell people, like, I can't just do it. It's got to be something that the person has already processed it and is ready to let go of it, but they just haven't been able to like release it like fully from their energy system. So when I'm releasing it, it's because the person has done the work, that they don't want to hold on to it anymore. So and it can happen randomly. Like it's hard for me to hold like a normal job. So because like I was at an eye office after 10 years, my couple of my coworkers that I worked with previously, they were like, we need an optician in here that knows what they're doing. Like, can you try? And I'm like, my situation is weird, with my collapsing at random times, and I get these huge energy flows, and I can trance out sometimes for like a half an hour to like 2 hours. I've tranced out.
Wow.
And sometimes, yeah, when they happen, it can be, it can be multiple in a day. So when those days when I'm meant to receive like a whole bunch of energy, it can really suck the life out of you. And you're not as functional as you'd want to be necessarily. So but anyway, they're like, we really would love for you to come work with us again. So I'm like, okay, I'll try it. And it was supposed to be that I was going to be left in the back and just working with the glasses, and not so much with patients. But then we had 2 pregnant ladies at the same time during the busiest time of the year, so we were short staffed. They were already short staffed because it was just hard to find qualified opticians. But but then I started helping out here and there just with little stuff. But I started randomly connecting to patients, and I had no control over it at that point. So like here I would be in the back putting new nose pads on for someone or whatever, and then I'm like, oh no, like, and then I would like get in this little transform and I would be doing this little thing like, and this was when it was minor. It's not, it's gotten much more, my skills have increased immensely since then. But yeah, I would draw it off. I would take the glasses back to them. I'd go in the back. I would dry heave out their energy, and then I would try to go back to work. And it got to be a lot. Like, and I would get these huge downloads at that time. I'd be laying on the floor, like, because we didn't really have a space for me because it was, pretty busy office and didn't have a lot of extra space. But like people, when I would get my downloads, I'm laying on the floor, they would like have to walk over me to use the microwave and stuff. And I'm like, this is not working, so that's when I quit that. And I was like, I can't, this is too stressful. And so, yeah, I opened a business called the Soul Advancement Shaman. And it's been a little rough getting that to move and groove because not everyone understands what I do. And but I wrote a book, to explaining my experiences, and I did not have a lot of information when I was going through that. Yeah, I had, the spirits and, the channeling poems and whatnot. And then I eventually found different, books and authors that kind of helped me understand what was going on. But I wrote this book, Got Spiritual Troubles? Yeah, tell me about it. So that people would have a guide. So they didn't have to go through what I did because I had to prove to all the medical community and my friends and family that I wasn't nuts and everything. So yeah, so I share my story in there and then I educate as well. And each chapter starts off with a poem. But if you want to talk about an organically grown shaman, I think this qualifies, as far as how I went about it. And I just have to say, my mentor from like Meridian Energetics, she was just like, because their technique of how they teach people does not include the dry heaving and all that. And she's like, you are intense. Like, I think you're gonna and she's always just like, you kind of act like you're on a battlefield and everyone's gonna die and you have to like save them. But I can't, it's just the way I, like if I'm going to have this skill and if I'm going to meet with someone for, an energy session, like I don't want to waste their time. I don't want to waste my time. So, and I don't dictate what gets yanked off, it's all done through my heart chakra. And you got to be careful when you're peeling layers off people though, too, because if you go too deep and they're not ready, you're going to expose underlying concerns. And then people are kind of like, oh no, did you see? I don't get visuals of like, I don't know if it, if you were beheaded in, 1703 or, or, went through a tragic, death or anything. I don't see, thank goodness, any of the visuals or that, but I do cry and different things when I'm pulling it off. But it's like because I've healed those different aspects of myself, and raised my level like on the stairway to heaven, things don't trigger you anymore after you've healed them. So that's why I think I can go ahead and extract this energy without penetrating into my system. And I clean my energy field before and after I work with an individual as well too. So, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like, my original mentor died and, his wife took over. Like she said, it's like I was in a sandbox playing by myself for many years, kind of learning how to harness these energies. And then, now it's time to let people in, or I can actually leave the sandbox and assist people. So, but my biggest thing, I do the energy work. It does take a bit of energy out of me. It's like they are pretty intense. So my main focus, I do want to help educate people, on how, deal with, your traumas and to release those things within your life or just let go of things that you don't need to hold on to. So that's why, yeah, I'm a big fan of the education so people can help themselves, too. So, but
yeah.
I don't know.
Amazing. Amazing story, Cindy. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Wow, what an amazing journey. From where you started with just, that prayer to God, just to, that you wanted something, a shift. And what an amazing shift you received.
Yeah. But I knew since I was 5 I was going to do something fairly significant, but I had no idea. Like, I didn't know any of this stuff existed. And like I said, the twin flame thing is a whole nother ball game all on its own. But like, I tap into it in the book and I explain, some of those things because yeah, it's another aspect of you. It's like you're connecting with you in another your vibration. It's another version of you living a different reality, but you're able to connect in the higher realms and share that love. And it's all about self-love in the end. We have to love ourselves so that, we can just make the world a better place for ourselves and for everyone else around us. So yeah.
I love that. I love that little last thing that you just brought up. It's all about self-love.
It is.
Yeah, that's beautiful because, oftentimes people don't have that for themselves, right? There's a lot of, like you said, just they're in the 3D world, right? Just sort of living their own lives and sort of disconnected from that. So I love that you brought that up around just, it's all about self-love and how you need to, really love yourself before you can even give love to others. So
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we don't realize how fear-based every, society is. And, all the things that we do just because other people expect us to or whatever and I've looked through like your information and we've talked a little bit here and there and that too, and like yeah, it's all about prioritizing and sometimes it's not, you don't want to consider yourself being selfish when you're taking care of yourself. Self-care is a mandatory thing, and releasing those things that don't need to dictate your world or waste your time doing. It's like, I don't know, there's so many different areas where we can improve the thoughts that we're thinking and consciously choose to make better use of our time and just our energies and our feelings. And we have to feel, though. That's the thing too. I always like to tell people, in my opinion, the true way to heal is to feel. You have to let go of those things and kind of process them and let go of them. So there's a whole bunch of exercises that Mel had me go through. That was my mentor. His name was Mel. When we were going through it. So a lot of inner child healing goes along with that. So
important work.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. And just like meditation time for, self-reflection and whatnot. So
yeah.
But
awesome.
yeah.
All right. All right. Well, oh my goodness, what an amazing story. And thank you so much again for sharing with us this amazing journey that you've been on. I do want to start to wrap up.
Yep.
But before we end, is there any one last special message you'd like to put out into the world for our audience today?
I mean, I don't know. I just, it comes down to like, I don't want to get emotional, but like, we have to take care of ourselves and we neglect who we are so often. And, we have to take care of ourselves so we can fill our cup so that we can help others. So, and I know, we got I'm a mom, so you got like the mom complex, like you got to, I always do different things and put the kids first and blah, 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 and just have expectations. But just remember to take care of yourself because, if you don't take care of yourself, life can be really crappy. So, I don't know.
Oh,
That's just,
absolutely. Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, people do people know how important self-care is, but they always forget and they never really prioritize it. But like you said, it's like moms especially, right? They're oftentimes not even thinking about themselves because it's all about the kids. But it's always that one, it's the airplane mask analogy, right? That everybody always talks about, right? The oxygen mask, right? They always tell you when you get on an airplane, you got to put your mask on first before assisting others. It's just like that.
I don't know if you've ever watched Schitt's Creek, but Moira Rose, that's one of her things is if I've ever learned anything about, so that's a funny little clip from that show. I know too. But yeah, we got to take care of ourselves because if we can take care of ourselves, then we can help others down the road too. So just be true to you and live your life and be fearless doing it. So
awesome. Awesome. I love that. Well, thank you again so much, Cindy, for being with me today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Amanda. It's been wonderful getting to know you and I appreciate the opportunity. So thank you.
I I invite you to subscribe to the Embrace, Balance, Discover Joy podcast and join our community. If you feel inspired by what you hear, please leave a review and share this podcast with others who might benefit. And remember, it's never too late to embrace balance and discover joy in your life. Stay tuned for our upcoming episodes filled with inspiring stories and valuable insights. Until next time, take care and be kind to yourself.